Hello and good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Business Buzz. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman. In today's tough economic climate, being really key and being centered on strategic planning and getting the utmost for from your employees are really keys to success. Also, for those people out there that may be looking at career transitions or optimizing their career pursuits, having the right game plan is also critical. So we have an expert in these and other fields from the John Birch Group. Welcome, John Birch.
Jeff, good to see you again. Thanks for having me on your show.
Glad you're on the show. And as I said before in the intro, what you do at the Birch Group is really paramount to success, both for individuals and for companies.
Absolutely.
In today's tough economy. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. Our goal is to help people and organizations reach their full untapped potential. That's what we're all about.
Now that's interesting. And before we get into all this, maybe you can tell our viewers a little bit about how you started the Birch Group, because oftentimes on the Business Buzz, we talk to people or have experts on the show that relate to reinventing and doing maybe more entrepreneurial things. And I think you're an example of someone that's done that.
I had been in corporate America for quite a few years and was caught in a merger, a buyout, and I lost my job and thought about what I really wanted to do for a while. And the company that I was with believed in giving people a lot of education. It was a type of a lifelong learning process. And I decided that I wanted to own my own business, and I took all that training I had and started my own company with it.
That's very interesting to me, and I'm sure many of our viewers out there that are looking to do something entrepreneurial. Maybe they've been forced into that situation or just looking at it as a next step in their life process. When you were downsized, laid off, and then looking at starting your own company, was there fear involved, and did you have to overcome that?
There's a lot of fear. There's a lot that you do have to overcome to start your own business. It's not for the faint-hearted. It requires total commitment, a lot of hours, a lot of setbacks. But if you do the right things, you can break out of that and succeed.
It's interesting you say that. You know, you have some setbacks, especially I would think initially. Aren't they tougher to get over in terms of you're starting the John Birch Group, you get some setbacks? Isn't it kind of difficult at times to say, gee, I'm going to stick with this, and not to fall back on saying, gee, maybe it's time to look for a job?
It wasn't, to be truthful, it wasn't for me because I did not want to go back to corporate America. Matter of fact, I was quoted in the Hartford Business Journal saying that rather than go back to corporate America, I'd rather live under a bridge and collect soda cans.
And what about that? Because many people feel the same, but sometimes a corporate environment is not the most fulfilling to some people. Isn't that correct?
Yes, a lot of people now are changing not only from entrepreneurships, but changing their careers completely.
And what do you think is involved in doing that in terms of, I agree with you, especially in a chaotic economy that we're in right now, people are looking at maybe doing a second act, a third act. What do you think people need to do out there for our viewers out there that are contemplating this? What do you think are some of the key steps in reinventing yourself?
Take a look at your core competencies, where you're strong, what your limitations are, and do something that you truly love. I was lucky at almost 50 years old, I found a career that I truly loved. I just look forward to getting up to work every day. I like the people that I work with. I like the people that I meet. I have a lot of fun.
To me, that is so important. I think for many of our viewers out there, it's paramount. But very few people actually do that. I mean, isn't there a big difference because you've lived both kind of lives, that you wake up in the morning and you just can't wait to get out of bed versus kind of punching the clock, going through the motions? To some degree, isn't that kind of a very sad scenario that you only, as far as I know, have one chance at life, and to go through life kind of just putting in your time? Isn't that in some ways tragic if someone has the ability to do other things and to fulfill a more enjoyable
Well, I'll tell you, I've had
situation?
several shots at life.
Oh, really?
And going into my own business was just another good opportunity.
I still get back, and we're going to leave that discussion point, but again, for our viewers out there, how do you set about starting something on your own? I mean, it involves really having a good sense of your own abilities, plus overcoming, I would assume, some naysayers. You mean acquaintances, business associates are saying, John, you know, that's a big risk. What are you doing? You're almost 50, blah, blah, blah. I mean, how do you kind of compartmentalize that and just continue to move on and have that sense of purpose?
There were a lot of naysayers when I started my business. One of the things that I'd strongly recommend to people that are thinking of starting their own business is surround yourself with positive people. Stay away from the naysayers, because the naysayers will not only talk you out of going into your own business, but their naysayers and their negativity spreads throughout your life and their lives also.
Mm-hmm. I think that's very good advice, sound advice, but hard to do. I mean, because sometimes you can't pick the people that you're surrounded by. And also, I believe very much so in the fact, I remember when I was early in my career, I was in sales, I used to listen to motivational and sales tapes, and I think it was a gentleman by the name of, his last name is Hopkins, was talking about if you want to do something, you want to be a millionaire, you want to start your own business, you have to talk to someone or people that have actually done it, because if you talk to someone that hasn't, they're going to, even if they care about you, they're going to have or give you information based on their own limitations. Do you agree with that assertion?
Yes. Also, one of the things that I'd recommend is that people network. Talk to people that have started their own businesses. There are a lot of networking organizations within the state of Connecticut. Go and talk to some of the people and see some of the pitfalls they had, some of the issues they had getting started.
Mm-hmm. How does networking, because I think it's very important that you brought that up, because I think networking is key, and you're the expert, but I believe it's the key in really flourishing as an entrepreneur. Also, an individual that's looking, let's say, for a career change or to get employed. Isn't networking really a key attribute of that?
Networking is one of the key attributes, even when you've been in business for a while. From networking, I developed a lot of, I would say, mentors when I first started my business. People that had different businesses from me, but people that I had met. They trusted me, they liked me, and they were more than happy to help me along the way. Mm-hmm. Even some people in the business. There's one gentleman I can think of that does some of the same things I do, but he wanted to see me succeed, and he was great. He made some connections for me, and it was fabulous.
So that's very interesting, and I'm sure it would be to our viewers out there as well, that you're saying that when you go to these networking events, that even people that have kind of overlapping interests in terms of their business accrements will still, or your experience has dictated, will still lend their support.
It's human nature. I feel that people are basically good. I used to have a much more pessimistic outlook on my life 20-some years ago plus. But what I found is that people do want you to succeed. People are willing. What you've got to do is you've got to reach out to people and ask.
John, I think that is extremely critical in terms of any kind of situation you're in. Isn't it very, just unbelievably critical to reach out, not in a desperate way, but in a matter-of-fact method that people will help you. Isn't that correct?
Yes. Even finding jobs. Networking is absolutely critical. You never know where your next opportunity is going to come from.
I think in the area of networking, at least from my own viewpoint, I think sometimes in today's technologically driven world, for the job seeker, I think, and please comment on this, don't you think too many job seekers rely on the databases, the job boards, and don't rely enough on old-fashioned networking? And just before you answer that question, I think many so-called career experts are starting to more rely too heavily as well on those databases. What do you think?
I agree. My associate, Paul Matthews, is the expert on that, but I think that he'll agree with me that the art of communication is dying. For you to get a job, or for you to, most of the business, my business is repeat clients or primarily through referrals. And for people to help you either get referrals, it's the same thing when you're going for a job. 3 things that have to happen. People have to know you, people have to like you, and most importantly, people have to trust you. And if you're just sending emails out to people, contacts that you've made before, how can they trust you? There's a direct relationship between communication and trust. If you're not communicating, people aren't trusting you. If you're not trusting of other people, it's very difficult for the two-way communication to occur.
Can an individual build up a network? Let's say they don't have an inherently strong network at the current time. Can they actually build up a network?
Absolutely, positively. I'm in the process of working with students right now up at University of Hartford, and one of the things that I teach them is how to network with people in corporations and to go into different meetings, networking opportunities, and to work effectively with people, get to know them, get to meet them, exchange business cards, follow up after. It's fairly simple to build a network. It's asking people about them. People like to talk about themselves. Sooner or later, they're going to start talking about you. As I said before, people want to help you. Ask for introductions from people. Start off with the people you know and expand your network. When I first started my business, I had cut my teeth in large corporations, and in the small and medium market, which is my target market, there are very few people that I knew in those markets. I met a few people, they introduced me to some people, those people introduced me to some people, and those people introduced me to some people. And your network grows. However, one of the things you have to do is to be willing to share your referrals and your people with other folks.
And John, you mentioned that you have to have the ability and the wherewithal to share. Isn't that another important attribute of sound networking, is you can't approach it just what's in it for me, but you have to look at genuinely trying to have the attitude of helping other people.
Absolutely. In my company, we're fully committed to helping other people, helping our clients, and also sometimes helping people that aren't our clients. I am a firm believer in, it's different in a business setting, but karma. If you are good to people and you help people, what I have found in my experience, the positive energies you put forth always come back to you.
I actually do agree with that, and I think many of our viewers would as well. It's kind of interesting, they had the book The Secret and other follow-up.
Absolutely.
You obviously just can't sit around and think good thoughts and expect good things to happen to you, but I do believe, and you are the expert, please comment on it, that if you envelop yourself in negativity, you're going to project that, and vice versa. Isn't that correct?
I have a story, and it's Good Samaritan was walking across the Portland Bridge, and he sees somebody hanging on by one finger ready to throw himself off the bridge. The Good Samaritan said to him, "What are you doing?" And the guy said, "Life's terrible. The world it's just a rotten place. Life is not worth living." The Good Samaritan looks at him and said, "You're wrong about that. Life is beautiful. People are great." He said, "Why don't you come down off the bridge and we'll sit down on the sidewalk and we'll talk about it." The next morning, the state police found 2 bodies floating in the river.
Interesting. It all goes back to
negativity. What I say, negativity always feeds upon itself. Stay positive. Surround yourself with positive people. The recession's a great example. There were some people that I knew and I worked with that we fed on each other and we kept each other positive, and it's going to happen, the economy's going to turn. And there were some people that I know that I tended to stay away from, that it was negativity, constantly.
doom and gloom, it's over.
Doom and gloom. Well, what happens when you assume that posture is it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Because you're not out there doing the things that you have to do. I'm lucky. It's not genius. It's just hard work and perseverance and keeping the right attitude that during the recession I had 2 of my best years I've ever had in business.
And obviously it has to do with the core competencies of the Birch Group, but it's also the attitude that you have as well.
Attitude, you can have all the competencies in the world, and if you don't have the right attitude and you don't have the right frame of mind, your competencies aren't going to do you any good. You're not going to be going out networking, you're not going to be meeting with customers.